Welcome to the Life Well Led podcast, everybody. Today I have on a fellow entrepreneur. He is Dr. Sanio Dizdarevic. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly, sir?
You got it.
All right. See, I've been around you enough where I've actually able to pronounce that correctly. Well, welcome on to the show and the Life Well Led podcast. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, happy to be here, Eric.
Glad you're here, man. For those that don't know who you are, who are listening to this podcast and watching it, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure thing. I was born in Eastern Europe, small country known as Bosnia. If you know where Croatia and Serbia are, it's right between them, like a nice sandwich. And I moved over here when I was 4 years old, straight to Dallas. And then stayed here ever since. Got raised here, now living in the colony currently.
That's fantastic. Now, again, knowing your history a little bit is that, during that time, there was a lot of civil unrest in the country and in that area. So you guys came over here, your family came over here, and you were raised here in Dallas for the most part.
Correct. Pretty much started with nothing and just slowly grew from there, just finding a way to make things work one day at a time, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year at a time.
I mean, that's an amazing story. That's like the American dream right there. And you're part of that. Your family's part of that. And now you and your family have that whole experience. Now, for you, you chose to go down, you could have chosen any path you wanted, presumably. And so you ended up choosing to be a chiropractor. What was the story behind it?
My parents gave me a little push, mainly my mom. I know going through college, I wanted to do something in the medical field. Tried physical therapy, didn't work out very well. And then right after graduating, my mom prints out this career path packet of different kinesiology career paths.
Mm-hmm.
And after I found just chiropractic on that first page alone, alphabetically, of course, I found Parker right here in Dallas. And so I sent my info, immediately got a call 2 seconds later from the rep, told me all about it. And it was almost too good to be true at first. So I decided to go visit, see what it was all about. They told me, hey, we're healing people by hand, treating people naturally, trying to avoid medication as much as possible, even though it is a necessary evil at times. But finding out what chiropractic is all about, I decided I was all in.
That's fantastic. And to be a healer and to be somebody who puts others first in a lot of ways, right? Because you're able to put the needs of the patient as your top priority. So what lessons in anything have you learned in your career as not only a healer, but also somebody who is now an entrepreneur and is running their own chiropractic care clinic?
Really, just as you said, putting people first, that's been the biggest thing. It's one of the reasons why I feel like our whole profession has a hard time dealing with that too, because we are so people focused that what we hear going through school is like medical doctors, physical therapists, other medical professionals. We hear stories that they're very like stoic, very straight to the point. They're like, all right, this is what you need. This is what you got to do. And then that's it. Versus us, we're like, it's like, hey, this is what you need, but we understand you're dealing with a lot of issues and we're trying to be accommodating when it's really tough to make sure we get the point across. Like, hey, you need this, but we're also very nice about it. We're very in our own head about it as chiropractors.
So being able to assess the field in the medical care and in patient care, you have the ability to see that, hey, you know what? You can't just be as matter of fact and direct, because that's not always going to get people to make changes that can help affect their life in a positive way.
Right. We have a lot of empathy for our patients.
That's a great way to put it, is that you do have empathy. And so I'm sure you've already had that naturally, but having that from your education is a really interesting perspective, because not everybody thinks about going to school as a place where you actually build empathy, unless you were, a counselor or a therapist or something. But to see that in a profession that's very hands-on and is, has its different associations, that, that is part of instilled in you as a chiropractic professional, that's amazing.
Yeah. And even going through school, we were always working together. All our classmates were just sharing everything, just helping each other out. And we know, hearing about other medical schools, how it's very competitive. Everybody's, got their own agenda. And it's just coming from that environment to pass out into the real world. It has its moments.
Do you feel like that not lack of competition, but the shift in focus from competition to collaboration has helped you in your pursuit of business?
No, I agree. I feel like when it comes to working with other people in the office, it's like we're on the same level. I don't see myself putting myself way above everyone else. It's like, okay, we're in this together. Let's see how we can make everything work out like it should.
And that is a key leadership point in what I've studied and how I've worked is that even though there is a hierarchical structure, like you do have to have somebody who's put in a position of authority to be authorized to do things. But collaboration really begins when you take away that structure or make it blurry, and you have the ability to solve problems that way rather than just say, well, Sanio's running his clinic, you have 3 or 4 support staff, but they don't feel comfortable answering questions, or they escalate it all to you and you're doing all the work. So what's the point of having staff?
Right.
So the
Exactly.
alternative is different, is that everybody can be on the same level to help solve a problem, and that everybody feels empowered to take directive and take control and have care in the project, organization, etc. that they're in.
Exactly. And training yourself on what you're supposed to do to make it easier for the people under you. So that way we're
Absolutely.
all on the same page.
I love that. I mean, that's a great thing to carry over. Now, you will build that practice because I know you and that you're getting there. But as a person who is doing the solopreneur route at the moment while you're still growing, what have you learned about leading in your business as well as your past experience?
Making a decision. I'm finding myself overwhelmed a lot these days
Mm-hmm.
with the sometimes it feels like thousands of decisions I have to make each week to pick one decision to make and then go from there, build on it. And then once that's done, find something else to make a decision on and then go from there.
The decision making process is, man, it's very relatable. As an entrepreneur, it's really tough to make decisions because you have so much freedom in what you're able to do, and you have other people involved, your other clients, other partners, vendors, etc. There's so much freedom in what you're able to do. It's difficult to decide like what is the right thing to do or what is the best thing to do in that situation. It's almost like you make the decision and stick with it, but also know that if it doesn't work out, you have the ability to learn from it and move on to the next step. What do you think about that?
God, the fluidity of it all, it's if fluidity is the right word.
It might be the right word. I like that though.
Yeah, the bopping and weaving, all of it, just taking it as you go, one day at a time, one decision at a time. Just knowing that something I recently saw the other day when it came to getting motivated with videos was just work on it. Don't try to finish it, just work on it and go from there.
Interesting thought, because a lot of the stuff that's leadership oriented, when you work with other people, even if you're not managing other people, but you're leading in your profession with your clients, it's a progress, right? So, as a professional and care for chiropractic, that it's not solved overnight and you don't have a set timetable. 20 sessions, you're going to be cured of your problems, right? It's a progression over time so that it's not a set timetable.
Exactly.
So
Same
how
way.
does that apply in business, right? That's how I see it, is that you have to look at it from a just do it and keep making progress, not get it done in X time. And that's what a leadership challenge is.
Yeah, and then looking ahead, or even 10 months from now, 12 months from now, looking back on all the things you worked on, you actually are finding yourself a lot further. It's surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like when you are, and let me ask you this real quick, how long have you been in business for yourself?
For myself, I'd
Hmm.
say about 1 year and 4 months for myself.
So did you feel like there were expectations that you shattered and then other expectations that you have to adjust over time?
The expectations were surprising because I didn't know really what I was getting into in the beginning.
Okay, that's a very common story for me and everybody else I've talked to. It's like, what am I doing in business? But yeah, fair enough. Go ahead.
And then the expectations that showed up the more I learned, I feel like I'm getting closer to shattering them little by little. They're
Hmm.
not completely shattered. It's like a goalpost that keeps moving further and further away the more I try different things.
Hmm.
And it's progress, but going back to progress.
They didn't teach us, you in chiropractic care, or me in coaching school, or any other schooling that we did undergrad or what have you, how to run a business.
No,
They can give you ideas of how to do your spreadsheets, how you do your taxes, how you track expenses and accounting, but they don't really give you they give you maybe even an idea of how to plan a business, but they don't really give you the adaptability skill set for it. So in the last over a year now, what do you think if you were to talk to somebody who was to start their own business, even another person who's a graduate of a chiropractic university or a chiropractic college and wanted to go out for themselves, what advice would you give them?
Start small, really small. Like I'm talking, if we're exaggerating, work out of a closet. Keep the overhead down as low as possible. And then go from there. Just make sure you have your main equipment and then building relationships after that. Just one after a time. I met you at a networking event
Exactly.
and then we just met more people through networking groups and we just went from there one day at a time.
And to your point, it never really cared where you were because you were sharing an office with somebody else and now you have a different office, and it never really mattered to me as a customer. And I'm not saying that for everybody, but there's other people like me who will say, I'll go to somebody because I trust them.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about a tremendous amount of empathy, you seem to have an advantage over maybe other business folks in that you have the customer centric mindset. And I think that that's served you very well so far, having known you. What would you say to any business owner, but even a chiropractic student who, or somebody who wants to start themselves? Like, what advantages do you feel like you had as being a people centric or people focused first person?
The trust comes easy. And I find myself trusting everybody when I meet them. That's literally my first go to. It's like I meet you, I automatically trust you. And I have a friendly demeanor to go off of
You definitely
go off
do.
of.
Yeah.
And then I really just want to learn more about the person in front of me. Learn more about their business, later, second, third, fourth option.
Right.
But really just know about you, your life story, and go from there.
I mean, that's definitely true of us, but I mean, that's great advice in general, right? Is build the relationship first, talk about the business second.
I'm almost wanting to just like every first person I meet in a group, like, hey, before you come to my office, let's have coffee first. It's like every single person that just would sign up for a visit, the day one visit, I almost want to just be like, don't come to my office. Let's have a coffee first.
No, I love that, man. I mean, look, in a business relationship that you and I have, it's not a product that we're selling. The service that we're selling is us. We're not just trusting others to do it. Like, we're solopreneurs in the sense that, or we work with a team, and that when we do our work, we are the ones that are there from start to finish with the client or the patient or whoever it might be. So it's almost essential to have that conversation over coffee or meet somewhere neutral or meet at their office or meet somewhere outside of where you work. So that way you can have that relationship with them first, and then they can feel comfortable making the decision to have your services.
Exactly. And then looking even a few steps further, people that you hire, really get to know all about them. Really get on the same level, put them first.
Let's have one last question here, and I really appreciate you coming on today, Sanio. Uh, what does it mean to live a life well led?
When I talked about earlier putting people first, I'm also including common courtesy in that mix. The best example I can give is one moment in my life that stood out the most, like a really feel good moment. Being stuck on a road to a intersection highway or highway intersection
Mm-hmm.
with the left lane just completely backed up because there's only one left lane. We definitely need a lot more two lanes going left these days.
Right.
And this opening on the people cars going the other way was, they didn't have a good view going left into the shops. And I was the one that was blocking their view. And I'm noticing in the rearview mirror, like, there's nobody there behind me, but these people don't know yet. So I'm literally signaling them, like, just go, just giving the hand motion. And I got 5 cars to go into the shops. And that was just like, oh my God, like teamwork, putting people first. Like, we got this. Just common courtesy rather than let's just let time go on. Eventually they're going to get to their shops.
Be a contributor to your team, be a contributor in life, and have that common courtesy to help, because we're all in this together, right?
Correct.
Let's do a plug for your business, man. Where can people find you? How can they get in touch with you? What would be the best way to seek out your services?
I am in the Northwest Plano area over by Sam's Club, Razor Boulevard, and Ohio.
In Plano, Texas.
Yes, I am in the Caddo offices of Plano, so a multi-office co-working space. And you can definitely find me at my main website name, newgen, Newgen, chiropractic.com. And would love to help anybody that's dealing with any issues going on that are chronic and or acute.
Dr. Sanio of Newgen Chiropractic, and also a good friend. Thank you so much for coming on, Dr. Sanio.
It's been a pleasure, Eric.